Hello, everyone. We promised you, those of you that care, a Q&A about found footage, because it's something I've never done, and I get lots of questions about it and have done over the years. Be careful not to knock that on the microphone, dear.
That is a good point.
So I put out a call last week for those of you who wanted to ask questions, and we had a lot more than I was expecting. So I'm going to have a go at trying to answer some of these. We did do this once already in the park today.
That was a failure.
Yeah, because we don't have... Well, we do, but we didn't set up. We just did it on an iPhone, and the wind was terrible.
And yeah, there was too much... Like, the sunlight was blinding us.
And more importantly, the lighting was really unflattering.
It's the worst.
So, so we're doing it here in our living room, our beautiful living room, which you can see nothing of.
Yet another living room.
Yeah, we've done it in here.
I mean,
partly so I can sit back, because on the other sofa I kind of had to sit forward.
Sit back and relax.
And did my back, didn't I, which has hurt for 2 weeks. And also in here we can close the curtains, and they're darker curtains, so we do get more flattering
actually,
lighting.
do you know what? That's a good point. Why have we never thought to do anything in here? We have done something. We did Christmas Venus in here.
Well, the reason why is because this room tends to be a bit of a thoroughfare for the kids.
Yeah.
And they're not here at the moment. They're not out playing. They've gone to their dad's. So,
which by law is allowed.
Yes, that's one of the things that you are allowed to do if you don't live with one of your parents. Anyway, so we should get started, shouldn't we?
Yes, let's get started.
So we're going to start with the questions from people on Patreon.
Yep.
Which, as a mark of how much my patrons love footage,
we
like
have one,
four
two,
questions,
three,
I think.
4 questions
From the patrons. So I should say here, before you all go, I'm not watching this video, that I get it. I know found footage, lost footage isn't for everyone. It sounds like I'm apologising for it. I'm not. It's the thing that I've done creatively, certainly on this channel, that I'm most proud of. I think it's... I do. I think it's quite unlike anything else. You know, the way it's got a kind of AR game built in, and it's sci-fi, but it's got that sort of weird lo-fi aesthetic, and it's got a story baked into it. I don't know. I'm really proud of it, and doing these recent lost footage things, which are very much harkening back to the original found footage in terms of style. If I go on and do more, I'm probably going to start changing things up a bit. But now lockdown seems like the perfect opportunity for people to kind of catch up on it and kind of watch the 13 episodes.
Which even we've done.
Go and give it a go. I know it's weird. I know it's hectic and chaotic and very flickery and all the rest of it. But it does reward...
Even we've
endurance.
Even we've used this as an opportunity to catch up on footage. We had a whole marathon the other night of the first 3 episodes or something, and it was so good. It was so good to take that trip back in time. It was actually a lot better than I remember, and I loved it the first time around. But I think watching it again,
we've had a bit of distance.
With a bit of distance, you pick up on bits that you haven't picked up on previously. And I just can't believe how much detail is in it.
Yeah. This sounds like we're doing the hard sell. And in a way we are, because I think at the moment, with lockdown and everything else that's going on in the world, personally, I'm finding it harder to have the enthusiasm and the energy to do these sort of videos that we have normally been doing on the channel. Whereas editing the found footage stuff, even though they don't get as many views, and I know not as many of you want that, I kind of can get lost in it, and don't know, somehow they feel more energetically kind of in tune with where the world is at the moment.
They fit the atmosphere of the current climate
and where my head's at, I think. So anyway, so we are doing this today though, because I suddenly announced to you I feel like doing it. Even though earlier we were going to do it, and then I got put in a bad mood by Twitter. So I didn't want to do it.
Then we tried to watch a film, and then that was just agitating.
Like so we're now doing it. Push through the discomfort. This has been a long rambling intro. First question, please.
Okay,
Sonia.
so the first question is from the nitroglycerin child, and it asks... hang on. I don't mean it as in nitroglycerin child is it. Yeah, yes. The question asks, is the found/lost footage universe...
against that.
Is the
found footage universe mapped out, and will there be any spin-offs? Is that what you wanted to ask?
That's exactly what I wanted to ask.
No, well, is it mapped out? Not on paper as such. It is sort of in my head. A lot of it came together as I was making it. But in my head, I kind of know what the universe is all about. And all the clues are in there. It's one of the things I love about it is that it is kind of a narrative puzzle that if you put all the pieces together, you might get a sense of the history of the universe and why it's like that. But it's not, I haven't got like a timeline. That's the sort of thing. It's the sort of thing that I think for other people who watch it to do and have fun with. And I know some people really, really love doing that. So plans for any spin-offs? No plans, although it was at the end of last year. I did sort of semi kind of announce we want to do a thing called lost footage, which wouldn't have been what I've kind of done.
So that it's not this lost footage.
This lost footage is sort of seen as a bit of a bonus, really, for those people who love the original found footage and sort of bringing together some of those little digi inserts that I've been dropping into episodes over the last couple of months, just to sort of collate it and kind of go, well, this is sort of the same genre. And it also means I can kind of put all that weirdness into the found footage episodes, and then we can record eps like this where I don't have to kind of spend 3 days editing an episode because I want to put weird stuff in. I can just edit it quite easily and then then go and do my weird stuff. So, but this other thing called lost footage, we were genuinely talking about it literally minutes before we had our car accident last year.
Yeah, not an exaggeration.
Yeah, literally
so
minutes
it could
before.
Be a sign from the universe saying,
Don't do it.
Not a good idea.
My car accident, there's my hand. It's coming on. Don't know if you can see that. Hurts some days. Anyway, so yeah, because
I didn't realise that you had a completely different vision for that. I thought it was still going to be kind of like the sketches that you're doing now, but then tied in with a wider story.
Not as such, because what I'm doing now is deliberately in the style of that original series. It's not sort of trying to push it on creatively. It's a bit of fun. It's a bonus, really. I have started to do a few little things in the episodes, which are, I guess, me practicing. But yeah, the follow-ups is... But I didn't... I'd done 10 episodes... plus 9, and then the Trojan Arse Protocol, which you should all go and watch, although preferably only if you've watched everything before it, because that's very different. And I wanted to do something that pushed that form of editing forwards, but also sort of brought in some of that cinematic stuff that we did in the Trojan Arse Protocol. And I had an idea for how to do that, how to kind of marry the best of both worlds. So it was still a sketch show, sort of really messed up sketch show, but with a better sense of that ongoing story, because that's what makes it different for me. It's it's a puzzle of a narrative, really. Anyway, it's a good question.
Okay, so the next question is from Chris Bell.
Oi, Chris Bell.
Hello.
Lovely Chris Bell, who does the Super Page 58 fan page.
And Chris asks, can Biffo'Vision be considered part of the Xenox verse? Would you say... Oh, sorry. Oh, blah, blah, blah. I can't read today. And you're not refusing to cut out all my millions of mistakes.
Can Biffo'Vision be considered part of the Xenox universe? Would you
Why
say
am I even here?
Because you've got stuff to add. Or should they be seen as entirely separate? Biffo'Vision, for those who didn't know, was a pilot that I made for BBC Three, probably like 2007, something like that. And it was very much, in some respects, kind of the pilot for found footage. I always saw found footage as a very low budget extension of Biffo'Vision. In the Biffo'Vision, it was a low budget. It was, I remember the budget was 60 grand, which was low then. And and we made found footage on, I don't know, about 23 grand, something like that. So which is why you don't kind of get big sets or lots of actors in it. I have to do a lot of it literally from footage that I find. But yeah, I one of the things I enjoyed doing when I was doing found footage, because I sort of saw it as an extension of Biffo'Vision, was just dropping in these sort of little hints that they were all part of the same thing. So if you look in places, Professor Derek Doctors is in there. in the Trojan Horse protocol, BW, who was a puppet character in Biffo'Vision. If you still don't know what I'm talking about, I'll drop some bits of it in now. He is sort of in the background in the Trojan Horse protocol. Yeah, so yeah, I consider them all part of the same thing. I love Biffo'Vision. Go and check it out on YouTube. It's not on this channel because I don't necessarily have the rights to do that, but it's worth a watch. It was a sort of spoof kids show that I made with Tim Moore, who I co-created Digitiser with. So yes, is your answer. Is my answer to you, Chris. Right.
Okay, PJ Close asks, Armstrong Wong and Goujon John descend into the mysterious hole. What emerges in the aftermath?
I don't want to answer silly questions.
Why?
Because we've got so many questions. And that means I've got to come up with from what emerges. I don't know. Goujon made a poo. Okay?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so
that
now
was it for the patrons. Thanks for all your questions, patrons. No, I love you, really. Support me on Patreon.
Okay, over on Facebook, on the Digitiser Facebook page, we've got a question from Alexander Ely asking, how do you start the creative process?
You just start. It doesn't really stop in the sense that my brain's always sort of churning. This is what the walk.
My brains
always churning.
Oh, I thought you said my brains are always churning.
My brain apostrophe S, as in my brain.
Get it.
Okay. Thanks, so.
My two brains.
Yes, my two brains. My brain. Anyway. Yeah, it's because we had a discussion this morning about me needing to exercise more, which I do. I know that. But I struggle to exercise unless my brain is being, I don't know, giving a chance to sort of do stuff. It's a real curse. You know, I as a kid, my exercise, I couldn't just do sport for the sake of it. Yeah, I'd go and have a kick about. Oh, I dropped a thing. I couldn't just, go and mess about in the park. I had to kind of turn it into some sort of fantasy game. Like, even at 18, I remember us going, going up the woods, and it was like, no, we should have a war. So we carried these huge buckets of water up to the woods and water pistols and stuff. So yeah, that's why on the walk earlier we turned it into a vlogging session just to kind of get me to stay out.
Just to get him out of the house for like 5 minutes.
I know I need to exercise more, but
not exercise, just move
more. Yeah,
well.
My wife is right about that. So how does so what I'm trying to say is my brain is always wanting to create. My brain is always wanting to do something. And I was the same as a kid. I was always drawing or recording stupid little radio plays, stuff like that. And so the creative process doesn't stop. It's just a case of sitting down and doing it. The most difficult thing is when I'm in a flow of something is taking an abrupt turn to like do day job work or something like that and switch off. Like last week I was terrible. It was like, I had loads of work to do, but I just wanted to edit that 3rd episode of Lost Footage. So yeah, it doesn't stop. It's not like I turn on a switch. It's always there.
Okay. Timothy Lilypad asks, when is the follow-up?
To what?
Well, found footage.
Well, Lost Footage it's not a follow-up. It's an adjunct. I don't know, because I would... To do a follow-up properly, we probably need to raise some money. And I don't know if it's popular enough. This is why I've not done anything with Lost Footage for years. Or found footage for years, sorry. Even these 3 episodes of Lost Footage, I've had to dip quite deeply into the sort of Patreon fund to pay for a lot of it. So I probably can't do it ongoing long term, or if I do, there's going to be massive gaps between the episodes because I'll have to do them slowly, which doesn't really help with the way my brain works. Because I'm like, now,
Yeah.
got to do it now. So I really now that I've kind of dipped my toe back in that water, I really want to do a follow-up, a proper one. Even if it's not part of the same universe, one that at least is a sort of, it's not Digitiser Deluxe or Digi Minis or anything like that. Something that is purely a creative project that doesn't necessarily have me in it on camera, that I can just put together, that's funny and weird. But yeah, I don't know whether we'd be able to raise enough money. That's what holds me back, really, because things cost money to make. All the sorts of things I want to make cost
and
money.
We still have to finish sorting out all the
bloody digitiser the show. Oh, I know. As soon as I say crowdfunding, you have a panic attack.
Yeah, because we have to finish the last thing first.
It's been horrible. The digitiser the show rewards thing. But we can't do any of this until lockdown's over. So, and life gets back to something approaching normality, and the economy gets back to something approaching normality. There's no way I'd even consider a crowdfunding until we know that enough people have jobs and incomes and things. So, don't know, it might be a way off. Sorry, was it Timothy?
It was, yes, Timothy.
Tim.
Okay, 80snostalgia.com says, a lot of things in your found footage videos are weird.
They're not.
I've wondered for a while whether this is because you're quite tall and you're inhaling slightly purer oxygen
silly question.
than the rest of us.
It's a silly question.
If you squat, does it suppress the weird thoughts? And if you wore shoes with slightly bigger heels, do you think found footage would be even weirder?
Yes. Next question.
Okay. Steph Allman asks, where do you imagine Goujon John lives?
Watch the first series and you'll know where he lives. Watch found footage properly and closely and you'll know exactly where he lives.
Filthy human meat.
Okay, Gordon Walker says, hello, Squire.
Hello, Gordon.
Firstly, thanks for all you do for us.
I don't really feel I do anything for you, but you're welcome.
And he asks, what is the oddest source in a very crowded field, metaphorically, that you've taken audio or footage from?
It's hard to say, really, because most of it I create, or it's stock footage that
what about those little videos that you've been taking?
Well, those,
pics from?
yeah.
There's some pretty odd ones.
I know, they've become annoying, though, because every time I've been using one of those, someone goes, oh, this is such and such. Yeah, it's like I'm thinking I'm discovering these really obscure things. Everyone's seen them, apart from me, apparently. So that's become a bit annoying, so I'm probably going to stop using them. Yeah, I thought I found some really good ones. Yeah, I don't know, because it's I'm creating it and then messing about with it. I mean, I've asked on Twitter and Facebook if you've got any home movie footage from like the sort of 70s, 80s or 90s that you don't mind me having and messing about with. Because I wanted, that's trying something a little bit different, an episode that's all sort of home movie footage. But
as long as you know what's going to happen.
Know what I do to it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be kind. I'm not going to be gentle. It'll be weird. But if you got some, send it to us at digitiser2000@gmail.com. I thank you.
Okay. Oh, hello, Glyn. The next question's from Glyn Heaviside.
Glyn, who is probably the world's biggest Mr. Biffo'S found footage fan, the
expert on found footage.
Yeah. Go check out the Facebook group Brannigan's Vortex, where Glyn and others post their found footage theories. See, that's how much people love it. Even if you don't, you probably wouldn't be watching this far anyway. But even if you think it's shit, other people think it's great. Listen to them.
Okay, so Glyn asks, has the technology to make humans lay eggs improved since it was first mentioned?
That's such a Glyn question. Brilliant.
We're now seeing it achieved through a tonic, whereas previously it was corrective surgery. Is this an indication of advancing technologies / timelines?
Right. Of course, this was going to be about the narrative stuff. What I will say with lost footage, it's not necessarily set after found footage, or at least all of it may not be. Some of it might be a bit prequely, but at the same time, you've got to see these episodes as VHS tapes that have been recorded over multiple times. So some of the stuff might be recorded later, some of the stuff you're seeing might be earlier. It's not necessarily a linear chronological narrative. That's what I would say.
Okay, interesting. So you're not going to mention the eggs?
No, I think there's enough in there. Do with that what thou wilt, Glyn.
All right. Next question is from Tyrone Man, T-Dog. And he asks, if you had no budgetary restraints whatsoever, what would be the first thing that you would do to found footage?
Wow, that's a good question. I would love to build some sets and film bits, like kind of the parody stuff on actual sets with actual actors. So I didn't have to literally find all the footage myself. That would be unlimited budget, would be to build sets and authentic to kind of the era and the universe and the genre that they're parodying. That's what I would do. Yeah, that's what
sets.
That's what I wish I could do more, was create some of the found footage myself more than I do already. Some of it I do, but certainly with lost footage I haven't been able to. We did with found footage create some stuff. Yeah, but on a very low budget, like the cheese holes thing, which didn't work really.
That's a shame, because that was really funny.
Yeah.
It was funny when we were doing it.
Yeah, we had a laugh when we were doing it, but it just looked too cheap and cheerful.
Too cheesy.
Too cheesy. No, not cheesy enough.
Okay. James Fielding asks, is Paul Gannon's real job preventing Eli's...
Okay, not a found footage question. Move on.
Okay.
I specifically asked for found footage questions, not cheap show questions. Not even on cheap show.
Shane Hadfield asks, how long does it take to edit a 1 minute clip on average? Does it compound the longer the clip is?
It depends entirely on the clip. The Armstrong Wong's Worldwide Wrestling, the wrestling skit in the most recent lost footage, which is 1.5 minutes, took me 3 days. That's just insane.
Which part of it?
All of it. Well, because I went overboard with the...
It did have a lot of elements to it.
3 days. Was it worth it? You know, how many people have watched it so far? 700, something like that. But yeah, so it entirely depends on the clip and the segment and what I want to do with it. That was challenging because I wanted to kind of have that, WWF, boom, kind of feel to it. So it took a lot of work.
Okay. George Quayle asks, do you expect to use any of the recurring concepts like Xenox, Goujon John, etc. in Digitiser inserts? Oh, I can't talk today. In Digitiser inserts going forward, or stick to the more standalone ones?
Thank you, George, for the question. Don't know, probably not, because I think it's going to get annoying for people if Xenox starts bleeding into the Digi-Eps. I was doing a little bit. There's little references to found footage and Xenox in the Christmas episode that we did last year.
But I guess that was before you started doing standalone lost footage
so now
episodes.
I'm doing lost footage standalones. I'm probably not, if I'm honest. I mean, that's when we get back, life gets back to normal and I start editing proper Digi episodes again. I'm sure there's still going to be weird cutaways, but I think there'll be more bedded into the episode and what we're talking about. But thank you for asking. It's a good question.
Dave Grave asks...
Dave Graves.
Oh, sorry, Dave Graves.
Dave Graves.
Asks...
Dave's Graves. He should set up a grave digging business. And call it Dave's Graves. Sorry, carry on.
Do your ideas come to you fully formed and you tried your best to realise them as though you're a sculptor who can see the statue in the marble? You're just chipping away at what shouldn't be there? Or does the germ of your ideas evolve during the creative process?
It's a bit of both, and it entirely depends. Something like back in found footage, Turts and Fans, that famously started on a car journey where I had the phrase Turts and Fans in my head, because I thought if you're going to abbreviate the word turtle and the word elephants, that's not the way to do it, really. I don't know. Turts and Fans. You don't abbreviate elephants to fans. Apostrophe fans. So it still makes me laugh.
And then it just got stuck in your head.
It got stuck in my head, and I did it as a spoof Digitiser teletext ad, I think, first. Sometimes, the Armstrong Wong thing, I had a pretty good idea what that was going to be like, which is probably why it took me so long. Sometimes I will just, for want of a less wanky metaphor, kind of just play around with the clay in my hands and see what it turns into. I'll just have the raw materials, and normally the seed of a stupid idea or a stupid phrase or a stupid image or something like that, and then just in the course of the editing turn it into something.
Okay.
That was wanky, wasn't it? Nah.
It's all right. Timothy Lilypad asks,
Oh,
are
him again.
you the man's daddy?
Stupid question,
He
Timothy.
said,
Your
his
other
jokes
question was
are
better.
exquisite.
Move on.
Oh, you're not answering
But he's already
it.
had a question answered.
Okay, we'll let it remain a mystery.
Timothy Lilypad, if that is your real name, best name ever.
Yeah, it is.
It also reminds me of there was a kids' TV actor back in the 70s called Christopher Lillycrap.
Is that his real name?
Yeah.
Oh.
There was a guy called... Anyway, that's what it reminds me of, so it's bringing me joy.
Gary Shepherd asks, did you start the original found footage with the aim of having an overarching story, or did it happen organically? If there was a Hollywood film of the series, unlimited budget, who would you want in it?
These are good questions, and in fact I will drop in a bit of footage from our little walk, because...
A little walk? Oh,
the walk.
the failed walk.
The failed walk. Well, no, it was a successful walk, failed video. But I will drop in a bit, because on that walk we took you to where the idea of the overarching narrative came from, and where the name of the series came from, because the origins of the series were, we had an event called Digifest, which was part of another event called Block Party, back in 2014, something
was
like
it that long ago?
2015, 16, I don't know. 4 years ago, 2016, I think. So, and I wanted to do a sort of video introduction to our bits, and I wanted to kind of bring some old Digitiser stuff to life. And I was trying to think how to do that in a way that felt like Digitiser. And of course, a lot of teletext and Digitiser stuff has been preserved on video cassettes, and that's what gave me the idea of maybe this stuff's been preserved on the video cassettes as well. But then I started to think, yeah, but what is the point of it? Where does this stuff come from? Where do these clips come from? And I wanted a way of just tying it all together. Completely unnecessary. Sketch shows generally don't do that, but for some reason I wanted that narrative and story, and it was at this place that will drop in the footage.
Makes it sound like a really magical place.
It's not, it's a bin. It's literally a bin. We were standing by a bin.
I see it more as the area where the trees are and the log is.
But I remember...
Not so much as the bin
No, we were
area.
literally standing by the bin because I put something in it.
Rubbish
And
idea.
we were talking. And I don't know, you came up with something that was key to it. I don't know where, but anyway, I said, something like found footage, like and then I went, that's the title of the series. And that was, on a walk in that park, which is often a magical experience. On this occasion, you saw loads of magpies and dog poo.
I only saw
So
one dog poo.
what was the rest of it? Oh, unlimited budget and Hollywood movie. Who would I want to be in it? Goujon John. I mean, voiceover Pete, even though he's become a massive YouTube phenomenon now. Armstrong Wong and Goujon John. Duh.
Yeah.
Because they're both brilliant. So not necessarily like big actors, although the original series of found footage, we did have like weird celeb cameos like Danny Wallace, British, I was going to say British Sea Power. Mine's gone blank. What's the band that we really like? Who? Jay Wilgoose was in it.
Public service broadcasting.
Who turned out he was
Hello, Goujon John.
Jay Wilgoose.
I love listening
Esquire.
to their music when I'm out.
Yeah, saw them live and everything.
Right.
And he turned out to be a Digitiser fan. So I said, "Can you record a bit for footage?" And then Rufus Hound and Robert Popper and people. It would be funny to drop some more famous people in there, but famous kind of sort of more from the era that we're spoofing, so sort of perhaps 80s, 90s famous people. I did really sadly, send an email to Keith Chegwin about found footage, asking him if he'd be in it, but then he died. So it was like, he never replied, and as it turned out, he hadn't been well. Ooh. So Keith Chegwin would have been perfect. So no, you don't want like Johnny Depp in it or anything. It's got to be kind of authentically found footage.
Right. Dave Archer asks, do you create all the clips or are they really found out in the wild?
Well, it's a mixture. A lot of them are stock footage that I have, done stuff to, as in royalty-free stock footage that I actually pay money for most of the time, because the best stuff you have to pay money for. And some are stuff that I find on archive.org, some weird old educational films, and some of it I make myself. Thank you, Dave.
Kathy Holloway asks, are the hosts, like Monsieur Omelette, people that you know, or do you send the found footage scripts to unsuspecting jobbing actors? If commissioned, have you had any rejections from any of them because they find the content too weird?
Most, if not all, have come from a website called Fiverr.com, where you can hire spokespeople for your product and or service. And the first one I ever found on there was VoiceOver Pete, who became Goujon John, and he set a very, very high bar for everyone else. Yes, I have had people say no to it. And refund my money. I've had some people get very arsey about it. I've had some people do it who clearly don't want to do it. Sometimes they're the best ones. Oh, God. Sometimes they are.
We were talking about one of them just the other day, who was in found footage.
Yeah.
Who clearly was not enjoying it.
And some of them just get so into it. I mean, Armstrong Wong.
Oh my God, he's amazing. And there was another one.
There's a voiceover guy
the House
who
of...
loved it. House of Seaman.
Yeah.
Yes, you didn't want to say it.
No, I was trying to think of the name. He loved it.
Yeah. And I think Monsieur Omelette loves it as well. He was really into it. I think I'm going to bring him back. Although he's kind of limited because I've called him Monsieur Omelette. So, yeah, they're...
Do you remember what were the sketches that people refused to do?
Well, I just went with other people, so I don't remember. Some of them objected to pretending to be other people, even though they were people with weird names. My favourite response was always Flansy C. So I can't even say his name without laughing. Flansy Seabong, who did, I think, 2. Because he would always come back with these really technical questions, no kind of acknowledgement of the weirdness. Like, always come back asking about pronunciation of things. And when we did the Wasp Bells one, and I had a reference to Michael Stipe out of REM, and he had to come back and check that I meant Stripe and not Stipe. But Flansy Seabong, he was good as well. Anyway,
there's been some really good ones.
Yeah. And some bad ones, but so bad they're good.
Like who?
Well, I don't want to... Swampate. Come on, Swampate.
No, Swampate was brilliant. It was just the sound wasn't very good.
No, but that's what made it.
But he was amazing. He's like one of my favourites. And he's not on there anymore.
I know, you can't hire him anymore.
That's a shame.
Yeah. Oh, the heart attacks guy. The Russian heart attacks guy is great.
He was good. What, did he not want to do it or something?
No, I'm just saying he was great.
Yeah, he was awesome.
Because English is not his first language. And which that sounds really mean, but it adds something, because so much of the found footage universe is in this sort of weird, in my head, a weird, capitalist version of Soviet Russia that kind of embraced capitalism rather than communism. And he's Russian. And he's just brilliant. He doesn't seem to blink. He just sort of stares at the camera. And he's got that great accent. I loved him. I'm going to bring him back.
Oh, yeah.
Dr. Tony Tiny Bell.
Timothy Lilypad.
Oh, he's back again.
He's back. And he's asking, is found footage, apart from the last episode, obviously, that was awful, the funniest thing you've ever written?
What?
He didn't write ever.
That was awful.
I think he was joking.
Well, it wasn't funny, that last one. It was just weird. Is it the funniest thing I've ever written? I don't know.
Is it funny to you?
Is it funny to me? Yeah, well, I mean, it's all relative, isn't it? Loads of people don't
Do you find it funny, or do you find it amusing?
We were watching it the other night and we were laughing at Manorak.
Oh, Manorak was brilliant.
Yeah, we were genuinely laughing at Manorak. I sometimes find there's a sort of meta level with found footage. that I love that some people, as I sound like I'm having a go at the people who don't find it funny, but in reality, I find that funny.
You find them not finding it funny?
It makes it funnier for me. And I can't even explain how it works, but we used to do it on Digitiser. Things like the man's daddy's jokes. They're not funny. They don't work on any level as jokes.
And then that makes them funny.
And that somehow makes them funny. I don't know. Somehow people not getting a joke, I find intensely amusing. And if they're disgusted, if they're weirded out, if they're baffled by something, that's just catnip to me.
So basically, you're finding the people who watch it and don't understand it funny rather than... No, that's not true, because you do actually really... You amuse yourself with the names.
I wouldn't... Well, that sounds like that's the one thing I find funny about it.
No, that's not the only thing. I'm just thinking one of the things that you seem to always laugh at is when you come up with a funny name for a character.
Yeah, of course I find it funny. I wouldn't make it if I didn't. But oddly, it being funny is not my first consideration. I'm going for atmosphere, really, and trying to kind of get a reaction out of the audience. I'm much more interested in creating an atmosphere with it. And one of the things I sort of always said with the original found footage, it was trying to use kind of thriller and horror movie techniques, but for comedy. So sort of, you kind of will have that long kind of build up, and then a murderer will jump out of the wardrobe with a knife. It's sort of a long build up followed by something weird happening. That's sort of what my intention is with it. It's using the language of horror and thrillers, albeit obviously in a very lo-fi kind of way, to get laughs. And also the other thing I do with it is it's the juxtaposition of something. So you'll get something that's sweet mixed with something that's just creepy and bizarre. That I always find funny. So is it the funniest thing I've done? I'm really proud of it. I mean, I would go back and do some stuff differently on the original series because I know what I'm doing better with editing now.
So what would you do differently?
I'll do the VHS effects differently and make them more authentic. Because I think particularly the last episode of Lost Footage, I think I've done some really good VHS looks on that. Though not so
it's
much.
really just the technical stuff that you change rather than...
Oh, there's some, because, there was a lot of stuff that we were, and really racing to get it done with a lot of those episodes. So it's partly the technical stuff, certainly the sound. But there's some sketches I'll drop. I'd love to do, and I probably will do, a sort of best of edited together at some point.
That would be interesting.
I just put my favourite bits in, possibly with some new sort of linking stuff, and perhaps give it a bit of a polish. VHS, or not the opposite of a polish. The big poo on it. Is it the funniest thing I've ever done? Don't know, but I love it. Even if I'm not laughing at it, I still love it.
Well, you do find a lot of it funny, because I hear you laughing.
Of course I do. I wouldn't do it.
I hear you laughing as you edit.
It's not for me to say, though, is it? It's for others.
Okay. James Cook asks, what are your
Cook Islands?
What are your influences?
Oh, bloody hell! The first one I always say is Python. A lot of Python is of its time, shall we say now, but also so much of it was just so bloody random. And it was that I loved as much as anything. There's one bit, and I can't remember what the context is in the episode, but there's like a magazine panel show, or there's a guy behind a desk, a newsreader or something like that. Anyway. And the newsreader is reading out the news, and he gets to sort of say, blah, 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 what the lady was, and then they cut to a Viking, just a split second, who goes, I was wearing... Back to the newsreader carrying on. Never explained, no point to it. There was stuff like that in Python that I loved. And by the same token, then the young ones. And what I loved about the young ones, I mean, we all love Rick Mail. But it was when they kind of embraced that randomness. There was the bit where Elephant Head comes on and starts singing.
Stop that! Stop it now. Go on, rub it off. Oh, now look what you've done. Quick, get the picture back before Elephant Head comes on and starts singing. Oh, too late.
Man, I got into trouble at school the next day because I remembered it during a German lesson and got an uncontrollable fit of giggles. And you can't explain. You're laughing about something that was on telly last night. Where, they drew on Neil's face and then a man said, "Quick, rub it off before Elephant Head comes on and starts singing." And then anyway, so the young ones, and then Digitiser often got compared to Vic and Bob, but as I always say, Vic and Bob was very much, when I kind of found it, it was like, oh, it's someone with the same sense of humour as me, rather than something that I felt was influential. Certainly Tim and Eric, awesome show, great job editing wise. That was a big influence on found footage, even though I think I sort of come at it from a slightly different angle. Certainly a lot of the kind of lo-fi choppiness of it, but it just felt like that fit with Digitiser, you know, the sort of stuff we were doing, 20 odd years ago, in terms of the sort of non sequiturs. It's a way of having a sort of visual version of the non sequiturs that we do on Digitiser, like we would kind of just have a sentence that just went "and!" exclamation mark at the end of an article, and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a way of trying to sort of translate, and that's the other thing we found footage. It's the first thing that I've done where I felt I succeeded in capturing the sort of spirit of what Digitiser was back in the day. Was other attempts to do it. Like I did a Channel 4 animated pilot called Knife and Wife. That didn't do it at all because I was trying to be too literal with it. So, by just sort of trying to write as I did on Digitiser, but for a visual medium. So I had to think visually with found footage to try and capture that Digitiser spirit. And it's good because originally, it was for a Digitiser event. And it was the first time I really thought about, okay, what am I doing wrong here? Why, when I try to write like I do on Digitiser for a visual medium, it's not working? And it was because I wasn't really thinking visually. I was thinking about words. So there you go. I think that was a short question. We should probably break this into short question, long answer. This has been 3/4 of an hour.
Oh, that's long.
So we're going to stop here.
Shall I stop? What's that up to? 14. That's got 15 minutes before it stops. So I'll stop it and
we'll start again. Oh, but we've got up to do it. I haven't said goodbye to everyone yet. Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye,
See you in the next
everyone.
video of this, which I might put out straight after this one.
Who knows?
But I've split it into two, even though the second part won't get as many views as the first. But that's fun, and we'll probably lose even more subscribers because this is all about found footage.
That's okay.
Yeah, it is.
See you later.
Bye.